In this learning module, we're going to be looking at the criminal trajectories of youth. Criminologists have been examining for some decades now what are the factors that contribute to youthful indiscretion that can become youthful illegal activity, and what accounts for the sudden drop-off in that illegal activity as they enter early young adulthood and into their mid-20s. There are a variety of different factors that can shape a criminal trajectory in any given young person. Some of them date back to the uterine environment. Fetal alcohol exposure, for example, or maternal malnutrition, or women who are pregnant during periods of considerable stress in their lives can contribute to factors such as low birth weight or early difficulties with attachment and learning, which can compromise a child's developmental trajectory. Now, these are challenges, but they are not fates, and there are many children who are exposed to intrauterine difficulties and still have perfectly adequate lives and are not criminal. But each of these can contribute to failure to achieve developmental milestones, which increase the risk of a child basically falling off a positive developmental track, some of whom will have difficulty climbing back onto that developmental track, and some of whom will have persisting criminal careers once they start a delinquent history. Amongst the kinds of developmental milestones we're looking for are early socialization capacities and early learning amongst preschool children. And then again at about 4th grade, when children have to make the transition from learning to read to reading to learn. And not all children make that transition well. In middle school, we're looking at opportunities for academic achievement, to be sure, but also their ability to engage in their communities and with individuals outside their families in meaningful and productive ways. We also are going to be very interested in who an individual child begins to affiliate with as their peers, because as they go into middle school, particularly if they have peers who are engaging in similar kinds of behavior, we often see the early onset of more troubled behavior as they begin to enter adolescence, as they enter high school. So in middle school, difficulties can begin to emerge, for example, early promiscuity, substance misuse, truancy from school, academic underachievement, perhaps being involved in a status offense before being involved in a delinquent offense, but often for them early contact with the delinquency systems in 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade. In the United States, starting at puberty, the rate of reckless behavior, impetuous behavior, some of which becomes also illegal behavior, begins to creep up. These challenges, these behaviors, can be greatly shaped by the family that the child is living in and the friends that they have and the nature of the community in which they are living. But as a general rule, as risk-taking behavior increases, so does criminal behavior that is also its own form of risk-taking. But I don't want you to think that criminal misconduct is the only kind of risk that is going on in adolescence and early young adulthood. With the onset of puberty, we also see spikes in other kinds of difficulties, such as self-injurious or self-harming behavior, risk-taking that can result in physical injury, like increases in automobile accidents, increases in drowning. We see an uptick with the onset of psychiatric disorders in adolescence, and we also see the uptick in criminal behavior. The height of criminal misconduct occurs in late adolescence, and here we see a quite remarkable phenomenon. As their brain development continues to proceed, many of them will also have had the social experiences that prepare them for entering into a full adult role as they enter their early to mid-20s. And in fact, that's precisely what happens. Many adolescents, some of whom were violent, chronic delinquents at age 15, 16, 17, by the time they hit 20, 21, 22, are entering their lives and are living lives that are incompatible with continued criminal activity. So at about 21 years of age, there's this sharp drop-off, the so-called age crime curve, which is part of why it's so difficult to predict the ultimate outcome for a youth, because we're trying to predict future risk against a tide of diminishing risk that comes with maturation.